Sergeant Daniel Brooks had once lived a life that most people only read about in history books or hear in the fading memories of old soldiers. He had seen war in places where the sun rose red and the nights were filled with distant echoes of fear and courage intertwined. He was a soldier who gave the best years of his life to serve a country he loved, even when that country eventually forgot him. Born in a small Midwestern town, Daniel grew up quiet and hardworking. His father was a mechanic, his mother a schoolteacher. He joined the military at 19, not because he wanted adventure, but because he wanted purpose. He believed in honor, in service, in loyalty. His life would be shaped by those beliefs, both in beautiful ways and devastating ones. Throughout his military career, he rose through the ranks, known for his steadiness under pressure and his ability to keep others calm. He was the one younger soldiers gravitated toward. He listened, he guided, he protected. Many times, his calm voice was the only thing that kept someone from breaking. But even the strongest are not invincible. After his final deployment, the world he returned to felt unfamiliar. Time had moved forward without him. Technology was different. People were different, and the rhythm of civilian life felt endlessly complicated. His parents passed away within a few years of each other. He never married. He never had children. Slowly, the family he once knew became only a memory. The military taught him how to survive a battlefield, but not how to survive loneliness. The PTSD he carried followed him everywhere. Shadows of moments he couldn't forget, memories that returned uninvited, flashes of guilt and fear. He tried therapy, he tried working odd jobs, but life became harder each year. Eventually, without a support system, he lost everything. His home, his savings, his sense of belonging. He drifted into homelessness, surviving mostly on the kindness of strangers and the structured routines of veteran shelters. Despite everything, he never complained. Staff at the shelter remembered him as gentle, polite, and soft-spoken. He would often sit alone, gazing out a window like he was searching for something long gone. And then one quiet evening, Sergeant Daniel Brooks passed away peacefully in his sleep. No one stood beside him. No relatives were listed in his paperwork. No phone numbers existed for next of kin. The world simply moved on. The county arranged a basic military funeral. Nothing elaborate, nothing personal. Just a respectful farewell for a man who once carried the weight of war on his shoulders. They prepared a simple wooden casket, placed a crisp American flag over it, and scheduled a service with a minister who had never met Daniel but would speak a few kind words. The day before the funeral, Linda, the funeral director, walked into the small chapel. She saw the 20 empty chairs and felt a hollow ache. She knew the service might begin and end with only herself, the minister, and the silent presence of a flag-covered casket. She couldn't accept that. No veteran should leave this world alone, she whispered. With a heavy heart, she took out her phone and typed a message on Facebook. A simple message. There is a funeral tomorrow for a homeless veteran. No family will be attending. If anyone wishes to show their respects, the service is at 10 a.m. It felt like a small gesture. Maybe a few people from the shelter might come. Maybe a pastor from another church. Maybe a couple of strangers passing through. She had no idea that in the next 12 hours, her post would travel farther than she could imagine. As the sun set, veterans across nearby towns saw the message and shared it. The words homeless veteran and no family struck a chord deep inside them. They knew what it felt like to return home and feel forgotten. They knew how thin the line could be between survival and falling through the cracks. One share became 10. 10 became 100. Around 11 p.m., in a garage filled with tools and the smell of engine oil, a biker named Maverick scrolled through his phone. The moment he saw the post, he stopped, read it again, and again. A veteran, alone, no one attending his funeral. That didn't sit right with him, not for 1 second. Maverick wasn't just any biker. He was a Marine veteran who carried his own scars. He gathered himself, stood up from the old metal stool in his garage, and walked his motorcycle. He placed a hand on the handlebar, took a long breath, and quietly said, "Not on my watch." He opened his phone, typed into a biker group chat, and hit send. Veteran funeral tomorrow. No family. We ride. Spread the word. What happened next was beyond anything he could have imagined. Across the state, phones buzzed, screens lit up in the darkness. Bikers read the message and felt something stir inside their chests. Riders who had never met each other, never met Daniel, never knew the story, felt the same unspoken call. One club shared it with another. That club shared it with three more. Calls were made. Engines were checked. Leather jackets were laid out. Some riders filled their tanks at 2 a.m. Others wrote messages on patches they planned to leave behind. The message didn't just spread. It exploded. By dawn, highways buzzed with the distant growl of engines. Long lines of bikes moved like rivers of steel along the quiet roads. Men and women, bearded giants, older veterans, young riders, joined the ride, forming a convoy so long that some drivers pulled over just to watch it pass. Back at the cemetery, the sky was pale and cool. The wind carried a stillness that felt almost too heavy. Linda arrived early, walking between the chairs, smoothing out the small details. She tried not to check the time every minute, but she couldn't help it. She had hoped, just hoped, that someone out there would come, even if it was only one. At 9:50 a.m., the chairs remained empty. The minister stood near the casket, fiddling with his notes. He cleared his throat and gave a small, sympathetic smile. "We'll give it a few more minutes," he said gently. Linda nodded, trying to swallow the sadness. And then it happened. A faint rumble, at first barely noticeable, rolled through the air. The minister paused. Linda lifted her head. The sound grew and grew until it became a powerful vibration that shook the ground beneath their feet. She walked toward the cemetery entrance, her heart pounding. What she saw made her gasp. Hundreds of motorcycles streamed down the road, 2 by 2, row after row. Chrome gleamed under the rising sun. American flags waved proudly from the backs of bikes. The roar of engines grew louder, deeper, until it sounded like thunder rolling across the earth. They just kept coming, and coming, and coming. What Linda thought might be 10 or 20 riders turned into 50, then 100, then hundreds more. By the time the last group arrived, more than 1,000 bikers stood in a vast formation around the cemetery. Maverick stepped off his bike, removed his helmet, and approached Linda. "Ma'am," he said softly, his voice steady but emotional. "We're here for the sergeant, every last one of us." She covered her mouth with both hands, overwhelmed. The service began with a silence so profound that even the birds seemed to quiet down. The bikers filled the space around the casket, standing shoulder to shoulder, heads bowed, some with hands over their hearts, some with salutes held firmly in place. Others simply stood still, fighting back tears. The minister, shaken by the sight, had to steady his hands before speaking. He talked about sacrifice, about duty, about a man who gave his life to service, and asked for nothing in return. He confessed he had never met Sergeant Brooks, but today, surrounded by an ocean of strangers, he felt the man's significance deeply. When the bugler lifted his trumpet and the first note of taps cut through the air, a ripple moved through the crowd. 1,000 bikers standing completely still. 1,000 hearts remembering a man they had never met but honored as a brother. Some cried openly. Some clenched their jaws, tears hidden behind sunglasses. Others whispered quiet words of respect. Maverick stepped forward to receive the folded flag. As it pressed into his hands, he felt the weight of a life of service, of stories untold. He nodded once and whispered, "You're home now, brother." After the service, every biker walked past the casket, every single one. Some left patches from their clubs. Some left coins. One man left a purple heart he had earned decades earlier, saying softly, "He deserves this more than I do." It took nearly 2 hours for all of them to pay their respects. By the afternoon, photos and videos of the massive biker turnout flooded social media. People around the nation were moved to tears. Comment after comment asked the same haunting question. How could a man who gave so much die alone? But the truth echoed louder. He didn't, not in the end, because strangers became family, because honor is not about blood, because compassion travels far, because brotherhood doesn't end with death. And as the bikers rode away in one long, roaring wave, engines thundering like a final salute, the message they left behind was clear. No veteran goes alone. Not today. Not ever.